Imagine twilight in a Viking hall. Torches flicker. A single word breaks the laughter. Argr. The laughter dies. Silence. A man's fate just changed. That word was no insult. It was a curse. Vikings lived by a code. Strength, blood, and honor were sacred. If you failed to meet that standard, you were cast out. The line between manhood and ruin was razor sharp. A Viking could kill for honor. But what if your enemy wasn't a warrior, but a whisper? What if you were called argr, unmanly, shameful? That one word was a legal excuse to end you. To be seen as womanly in Viking society was not about gender. It was about power. You were expected to dominate, in battle, in bed, in every word and every gesture. Vikings carved their laws into stone, but shame carved deeper. The Sagas law code said this clearly: call a man argr, and you must be ready to fight or die. 3 words justified bloodshed: argr, ragr, stroden. They implied you were passive, that you took the role of the woman. Not a wife, not a lover, a vessel, a disgrace. You didn't need to commit a crime. Someone just had to accuse you. Sometimes it was a neighbor, sometimes a rival. And once the word stuck, the end came fast. In one saga, a man named Thorleifr is accused of cider. He was known to practice strange arts. His enemies gathered, whispered. Soon, no one traded with him. His friends stopped visiting. Then came the Nidstong, a pole stabbed into the ground near his home. On it, runes, a horse's head, a curse. The pole faced his land, and everyone saw. He was publicly declared unmanly. He disappeared not long after. Some say he was sacrificed, others say he fled across the sea. But his name was erased from the oral records. For Vikings, that was worse than death. The Nidstong ritual was ancient. The horse's head was key. It symbolized femininity, humiliation. The runes often describe the man as a gelding, or worse, a witch wife. Being a witch wasn't always glorious. In Viking culture, satyr was women's magic. Men who used it were feared and reviled. Odin used satyr and was mocked by other gods for it. Even Thor, the thunder god, accused Odin of behaving like a woman, sitting, spinning spells, seeing the future. Power, yes, but shameful power, drawn from the wrong source. But Odin was a god. Mortal men weren't so lucky. If a man practiced satyr, he was called Seidskrati, a dangerous, twisted soul. You'd be exiled or worse. Some men were accused just for wearing bright clothing, or braiding their hair too finely, or speaking with a soft voice, a glance, a movement, enough to brand you. Sexually, the Vikings had a brutal double standard. A man could engage in same-sex acts and still be respected if he was dominant. If he was the receiver, he was done. Being used was symbolic death. You lost your name, your legacy, your land. Your sons would be shamed. Your daughters wouldn't marry. The rot spread from one whisper. Fighting back was allowed, encouraged. A holmgang, a duel to the death, was the only way to clear your name. If you refused, it confirmed the accusation. Some lost, some died. Some chose to kill themselves before the shame spread. Saga after saga tells of men who vanished after being accused. Some are buried in nameless graves, but others fought back in different ways. They embraced exile. They lived in the mountains, practiced secret rites. Some became feared berserkers, channeling their rage. Across Scandinavia, archaeologists have uncovered strange graves, men buried with staffs, amulets, and ritual objects normally associated with women. One grave in Valsgärde, Sweden, had a man laid to rest in silk, surrounded by spellcasting tools. His DNA was male. His burial was not. No weapon, no shield, just symbols of Satyr. Who was he? A shaman? A priest? Or someone cast out from the world of men? No saga speaks his name, but he was honored in death, or perhaps feared. At Oseberg, Norway, another mystery, a ship burial filled with rich fabric, carts, animals, and 2 women. One of the women may have been biologically male. A sorcerer priestess? The tapestry found there shows hooded figures, a great tree, hanging bodies. Scholars believe it represents the sacrifices at Uppsala, 9 of every male creature. Dogs, horses, humans. The sacred number 9. Every 9 years, the Swedes offered blood to the gods. Those deemed unworthy, dishonorable, or weak may have been among the victims. Adam of Bremen, a Christian chronicler, was horrified by what he saw at Uppsala. He claimed 72 bodies hung from the trees, swaying like cursed fruit, silent, bloody, forgotten. We don't know if they were criminals, or the shamed, or simply chosen. But in Viking thought, to be argr was a spiritual stain. Sacrificing you cleansed the community. The Niddinger, the man without honor, was worse than a murderer, worse than a coward. He was a threat to the social fabric. To tolerate him meant inviting chaos. The sagas tell of fathers disowning sons, of warriors spitting in the face of their brothers. A man called argr brought shame on all who knew him. Entire lineages were stained. And yet, within this rigid structure, contradictions lived. Freyr, the god of fertility, was worshipped with erect phalluses and sacred sexuality. Was he feminine or beyond labels? Some men may have operated in liminal roles, shamans, mediators, gender-bending sorcerers. They were feared but needed, excluded but powerful in secret places. The lines were blurry. But in the public square, the mead hall, the battlefield, they were not. There you were either a man of honor or you were nothing. And if you were nothing, your death wouldn't be glorious. It would be ritual. Your name would be removed from the memory of men. You would become the unspoken. Vikings lived for fame. To die with a blade in hand meant entry to Valhalla. But a man accused of orgy? He would never sit at Odin's table. He would be lost in hell's fog. Even after death, shame followed. Some bodies were buried outside of consecrated land. No stone, no song, just cold earth. Some were burned entirely to keep their spirit from returning. Some stories speak of ghosts, dragr, shamed men who return from the grave, angry, restless, forgotten, forever wandering, seeking justice or revenge. One saga tells of a dragr haunting a village. He had been labeled ragr in life. No one buried him. Now in death, he wandered door to door, whispering shame to every man he passed. These were not just stories. They were warnings, a code of fear carved in flesh and fire. Stay strong, stay dominant, never be seen as soft, never ever be argr. The Viking Age ended long ago, but the ghosts remain. In the runes, in the sagas, in the wind through the fjords. So the shame lingers, the silence speaks. Because in that world, to be seen as womanly was not to live differently. It was to not live at all.